So we're going to start a class in 1 minute. Those who wish to stay for the class can. If I'm too noisy, then I guess put yourself in an extreme place. This is kind of where I landed.
You eat after the class? You disagree? About what's the work we put through?
Okay, so good morning. Today is Tisha B'Av. Today is the 9th day of Av. It is the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, right? In a Jewish year has 355 days. This by far is the saddest one. And however, it is a paradox. The paradox of Tisha B'Av is that while it's the saddest day, and while we sit and we recite a whole book of special prayers, Tisha B'Av recounting the history in poetic form, we don't say Tachnun. We don't say the self-judgment part of prayer. Now, so the Tachnun is recited every day, except Shabbat, except holidays, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, etc., and on other festive days. Festive being the operative word, because a regular day you say Tachnun. If it's not a regular day, Shabbat, holidays, or festive, so today's not Shabbat, today's not holiday, and today's clearly not a festive day, but perhaps it is. So Tisha B'Av is a very negative day in our Jewish history. Tisha B'Av started 3,300 years ago. So it didn't just start by the destruction of the temple. It started 1,300 plus years before then. Essentially, Moses was asked by the Jewish people to send in spies to check out the land. And he acquiesced and he sent spies, and he sent 12 men. They were there for 40 days and they came back, and 10 of the 12 spies said the land is inconquerable. The land is stronger than God. The land will eat its inhabitants. Lo nale. We're not going. We're not going. 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, said, "What do you mean? It's our enemies are like bread, right? They're like it's if you remove the, they have no shade, they have no shelter. We can get them. We can conquer Israel." Anyway, there was a near riot against Moses. It was spies' lives matter that went into a riot, into a ruckus, and God said, "I'm done." Moses prayed for the Jewish people. God said, "Okay, I won't kill him." However, for every day they spent spying and maligning the land, it's going to be 1 year in the desert. That the day of that decree was Tisha B'Av. So what do we learn from there? We learn from there is actually we can create our own energy. Because if the spies would have come and said, "We're going in, and we're lovely, we can't wait to toil the land in Israel and have those delicious figs and dates and pomegranates," and well, I don't like pomegranates, but I'm aligning the land, by the way, by saying that. So then it wouldn't have been a negative day. They would have gone into Israel and done, or as they say in Scotland, "Bub's your uncle." But they didn't, and hence Tisha B'Av was formed, and it was our fault. It was our fault. We are a reincarnation, by the way, of that generation, of every generation, I think. So we blew it. But we didn't just blow it for the moment, we created a negative trend. So Tisha B'Av, we know the destruction of both temples. We'll get back to that in a moment. The first temple and the second temple. Tisha B'Av was the last day to get out of Spain by the Spanish Inquisition in 1492. The Jews had a choice: convert, be killed, or get out. That day was Tisha B'Av. The last day was Tisha B'Av 1492. Tisha B'Av was the day when the Duke was killed that started World War I. And Tisha B'Av was the day that we left Gaza, right? Tisha B'Av was the day, for whatever reason, bizarre, the powers that be. We left Israel we left Gaza on that day. And there's been other catastrophes, minor catastrophes. In general, the 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av are considered negative energy, and we don't go swimming, we don't launder our clothes, we try not to fly or put ourselves in any danger. Interesting to note, Flight 800, if you remember, off the east, off the Shinnecock, came down in the Shinnecock anyway, was in the 9 days, I think the 4th or 5th day of Av. So it's negative energy surrounds us and abounds us. So why don't we say Tachnan? Right? And if you look at the Talmud, I mean, the story of the destruction, how people, it didn't take place over one day. It took place of people dying of starvation, people dying of disease, dehydration. It was a Surfside tragedy, all wrapped in, and it was just terrible, and death by stoning, death by hanging, death by the sword. It was just a terrible time. Why don't we say Tachlan? So that keeps on coming back, that question, and the answer is because it's a paradox. Now, if we think about the original sin, the spies, the original sin, where they said the land is inconquerable, essentially, if you think about it, the destruction of the temple was payback. Okay, it's stronger than God. The land is the enemy is stronger than God. Well, guess what? In the destruction of the first temple, they were clearly stronger than God. The temple was destroyed. God's home was ransacked. The second temple, God's home was beaten, and it's still beaten, and it's still under alien, foreign, interloper command. We don't have the Temple Mount. Right? Even that short span in 1967 when we had it. So Moshe Dayan, in his brilliance, gave it back. He didn't give the Kotel back, but the Temple Mount he gave back. So we never had it. We haven't had it since we had it for about 5 minutes before Moshe Dayan. He wanted to be progressive, he wanted to be forward, and he wanted to be liberal-minded, and he gave it back on that day. Right? And it's interesting, what caused him to give it back was a soldier climbed up the mosque with an Israeli flag. And so Moshe Dayan said, take that down, and he apologized to the Waqf, and he gave back. So to me, he was no hero, but a brilliant general, but when it came to politics, he was lousy. So just like, by the way, all the Israeli generals, soon as they get into politics, they're disastrous. So it was destroyed. And yeah, they did conquer, right? They kicked God right out of his home. So we see they complained, 1,300 or 1,400 years before, and their prophecy, their maligning actually came to fruition, where their prophecy came true. Yes.
If these spies were punished and they had to wait 40 years and all the people that were alive in the generation
Yeah.
passed away before they went into Israel,
Yeah.
why were they being, the new generation?
It's a great
being
question. So
punished?
the question is, the spies got punished and the generation got punished. Why punish the next generation? So the answer to it is actually, there's two answers to it. One is the temple would never have been destroyed if the Jewish people did not sin. But because they sinned, there was a pre-existing condition. And that is the negativity of the time of Tisha B'Av and the 9 days prior, right? So there was something pre-existing. You know, they talk of people who have an eating disorder. It says, what causes the eating disorder? What causes it? So they say that there was that it's trauma. So everybody that gets trauma has an eating disorder? No. Trauma plus a pre-existing, right, something in the hypothalamus that's off, that and trauma causes pre-existing. So likewise, with the temple being destroyed, it was the negativity of the day. You put that with sinning, you'll get the destruction of the temple. So what was the sin of the first temple? So we're taught the sin of the first temple was idol worship. Is that, and to quote the Talmud, the majority of Jews worshipped idols at that time in some form or fashion. They may have been, misinformed. This wasn't idol worship, and etc. But they worshipped idol. In fact, it says that it's brought down in history that the Temple Mount, right outside the Temple Mount, in other words, in the old city of Jerusalem, where the Kotel is, there's a gymnasium. And it says that gymnasium had more people, that fitness club had more people coming to it than they were coming to the Holy Temple Mount. There were more people worshiping the body, right? The pecs and the deltoids and the abs and the quads than worshiping God. In addition, that most people who lived at that time had a bama, had an altar which was not allowed on their cedar deck in the 1 acre zoning of their backyard. And so God said, you know what? They don't need me. They don't want me. They'd rather do push-ups and sit-ups, heaven forfend, and they would rather worship idols. I think if I heard a lecture by Rabbi Beryl Wine, I think he gave this figure. He says in the totality of Jerusalem, there were only 55,000 Jews that were committed to God. The rest, million, were not. And so if that's not, I don't know where he gets his number from, but if that's accurate, I mean, that's what you call a shanda, right? It's 80, 90% of Jews, right? 80, 90% of Jews were not interested. So God said, okay, you're not interested in me. Let's call it a day. Let's call the whole thing off. And he goes, okay, and you're out. That's what the first temple was destroyed. After the temple was destroyed, the rabbis who were left, basically were left to pick up the pieces. They got together and they had a day of introspection, a day of prayer, which concluded with a decree, a rabbinical decree. Dear God, the Jewish people cannot overcome idolatry. It's too powerful. The lust, the illogical lust for that matter, the illogical lust to pursue idols is too much for the Jewish people, and we cannot overcome it. Therefore, we're asking you on behalf of the people, take away the lust for idol worship. And you know what God did? God did. For the most part, you won't find Jews for Jesus. It's a minority of a minority of a minority. And even those that are, they hedge their bets. They're Jews for Jesus. Not that they converted to Christianity and done and out. No, they're Jews for Jesus. Very few Jews go into Buddhism or Taoism or Hinduism, right? Yeah, there's a couple of Long Island kids who were born with a silver spoon looking for meaning, and they didn't realize it was in their own backyard, so they went to Tibet. And very few. So the contemporary idol for Jews today would be worship of money or worship of self. But to worship a conventional idol, an idol, right? A false god, polytheism, even polytheism. So then, so you have more Jews who are atheists or agnostic. You know the difference between atheism and agnosticism. I don't know, and I don't care. Right? So the amount of Jews that follow, forget about that they don't worship God, but even the not monotheists is such a minority of a minority. So the rabbis took care of idol worship, right? If you can only now, they can take care of cottage cheese and tofu. I'd be a very happy camp. The second temple was destroyed because of senseless hate. The Jews hated each other. There was a civil war. It was the Pharisees versus the Sadducees that ended up at a siege. That the Pharisees would put a siege around Jerusalem, and they did not allow them to bring up the daily sacrifice, and it was very bad, to the point where the Pharisees, the Pharisees asked the government, the local government, which was not Jewish, to intercede. So the Romans came in, which eventually led to the destruction. The obvious lessons are, if you got a fight between one Jew and another, don't involve. If you work it out in Beth Din, work it out between yourselves, work it out in the rabbi's office. It's much better than bringing in the authorities, because you never know what the end could be, right? You never know. There's a great story in the Talmud where Alexander the Great was visiting many places, and he visited a place where he wanted to see how they lived. And they lived very, very simple, and they had no ego, and they didn't have a worship for money, etc. And while he was there, someone came to see the king of that tribe. What was the issue? Is that I sold this person my house and my property. Underneath, somewhere in the backyard, they dug up gold. So what's the issue? Who does the gold belong to? So the person who said, I sold him the house, he goes, I sold the house fair and square, including the gold. It doesn't belong to me. The people who bought the property says, no, we bought the house and the property. We didn't buy the gold. Each one was trying to give up their gold to the person. So what did the chief, Kokoam, what did he declare? He declared that the son of the seller should marry the daughter of the buyer, and they should have the gold. So Alexander the Great said, I can't believe what just happened. So the chief said, what would you have done? He goes, I would have killed the buyer and his family. I would have killed the seller and his family, and I would have kept the gold. Right? Yeah, and the house. So you got to be careful who you call in to mediate an argument. And they did. They called in the Romans. The Romans mediated an argument by destroying Jerusalem and plundering the city. And the story of the Talmud, I mean, it's in the tractate of Shabbat, and it's in the tractate of Gittin. where you can, Gittin, I think, is 55b, where you look at the story, look it up, you can Google it, Rabbi Google. And if they don't, say this is fake news and ban you. But you can look it up and you'll see just the terrible story of how it was set in motion, how two Jews were fighting, and because of that, the temple was destroyed inevitably. You'll read the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Gary.
Really was the way I understood the story, really blamed the rabbis at the time for not rebuking and
right. So somebody was embarrassed publicly at a wedding, and the rabbis did not. The rabbis did not tell the person who was embarrassing that he was throwing him out of his wedding party. Get out! Get out! I didn't invite you. Get out! And the rabbis and the nobles and the wealthy said nothing. He goes, then what's it worth? And he came up with a plot to destroy the infrastructure of the Jewish people. Interesting, a few days ago, there was in Long Island, on Juneteenth to be exact, the new federal holiday, is that there was in Islip Township at a school that was celebrating Juneteenth. This story is not known, but I'm going to try and go for the jugular, but I doubt. I have no support there from the person it happened to. But it was an award ceremony for students that have practiced inclusion. And so one speaker, she was an African American speaker, and she says something like this, that truth be told, African Americans did have support. He said, we had our Latino brothers. They helped us in our fight for inclusion. The Protestants, I think, were the worst. It's the KKK were the Protestants. The Protestants, they helped us. So somebody who was a speaker, who was Jewish, sitting in the front, said, and the Jews, because the founders of NAACP was Walter Sachs, Grandpa, Dr. Henry Moskowitz, the Frisk brothers, Jews. The speaker said, the Jews have done nothing to help the Black people. In fact, the Jews are probably the biggest culprits. And guess what? Nobody stood up. Not the dean, not the principal, not the teachers, not the public, not the students, nobody. And then one person shouted from the audience, the daughter of a board member of Iceland, who said, lady, shut up. It's Juneteenth, not Juteenth. And nothing. Her mother, who's a board member, said nothing. So when you say nothing, you're morally corrupt. If you don't speak out, silence is acquiescence, right? So, and that's what happened in Iceland. And there was no rebuttal. There's nobody got up there to speak, to say, hold on a second, we're fake news. We're distorting history here. Heschel walked across, Torah in hand with Martin Luther King across the bridge. Nothing. There was nobody who said a peep. Nobody. Andrew Goodman, who was killed in Mississippi, right? Because he was investigating racism, and a church that was had racist slurs and was burnt. I think was burnt. Mississippi burning. It was a burnt. Anyway, so that's the story of the Second Temple. It's a terrible day, but we don't say Tachna. So here is the interesting point. So it's brought down that Tisha B'Av will be a festive Jewish holiday where we will celebrate. As in Tisha B'Av these days we have to be celibate, but so we'll celebrate, and it would just be a day of joy and exuberance. And why? Because This is the day, it says in the Talmud, that Tisha B'Av, the Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av will be turned around from a negative day to a positive day, and Tisha B'Av will merit to see the third temple. And there's an argument actually between Rambam and Rashi versus Nachmanides. So Nachmanides says it's going to be a prefab lightning structure that's going to come down from heaven. God himself will build the third temple. Rashi says, not quite. We're going to build a temple, right? So Nachmanides says, well, we'll build the foundation. Rashi says, not quite. We're going to have to build the temple, and others say that we'll build it except for the doors, and God will put in the doors. So the bottom line is it's going to be a holy structure, like it was on the very place the first and second temple were built. And as we know, that when the temple was destroyed the first time and the second time, we were not allowed up on Temple Mount because it was still holy. So Kedusha le'zazam imkema, the holiness never departed from the place. It was only the physical bricks. So God is going to make sure there's a building built, and holiness and sacrifices, whatever that means, some nice olive oil with frankincense, Steve, and a good roasted lamb, right? Who knows whether there'll be animal sacrifices, right? We can barely get this, we can barely cut down a tree because of the spotted owl. So who knows if there's going to be, sacrifices. Try to do kaparas in Dix Hills, chickens in Dix Hills. Oh, I had the hate calls that I got. So you go to Millmont and do it there. Anyway, so it's going to be a holy day. It's going to be an incredibly holy day. It's not just going to be a regular day. It's going to be a day of festivity. From complete despair to Yom Tov. A Yom Tov? That's why we don't say Tachnan. But why a Yom Tov? Isn't it the most negative day, and the most despondent day, and the day when negativity and rears its ugly head at its peak, at its prime, at its climax? So I believe the answer could be found one of the places in Tanya. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes something that I believe is revolutionary. He writes that when God gives a person revealed good, it's good. You have a good day, your kids are doing well, you got money, you get along with your wife 50% of the time. That's revealed good. You just things are going, and your studies are going well, your business is going well, et cetera, et cetera. Your rabbi is charismatic. That's revealed good. And that comes from a lofty source. Says the Alter Rebbe. However, and you should thank God. However, what if your day's gone bad? What if your particular moment in life, those months, bad, your kids aren't doing well, your business is not doing well, you're in foreclosure, somebody's sick, etc. The Alter Rebbe says that's called unrevealed good. And then he says, not only should you not be angry at God, you should thank and bless God. And you say to yourself, that's counter rational, right? That's counterintuitive. It's what does that mean? So the Alter Rebbe explains that unrevealed good comes from a much loftier source than revealed good. It means God is connecting with you And God has noticed you individually in a very powerful manner. And it comes down here as negativity, but ultimately will lead to blessings. So if a person is going through a hard time, now that's a very lofty level to say, thank you, thank you. But you know what? We do it. When we lose a loved one and we tear our garments, we say, Baruch Dayan Hoemet. Blessed is the true judge, right? So we do bless God. You know, it doesn't feel good. We don't say, blessed is the God that's good and does good. But we do say, blessed is the true judge. And now, would I ever tell somebody who's sick? Would I ever tell somebody who lost a child? The ultimate pain. And being sick is probably second, the penultimate pain, right? Would I ever tell them, baby, this is love. This is God's love, right? Enjoy the moment. Of course not. Of course not. I wouldn't. I would never. However, his point still remains the same, that the energy that's coming from God is an incredibly lofty. Incredibly lofty. And we told the story last night of Rabbi Akiva. He was walking with a couple of rabbis and was walking past the ruin, what was the Temple Mount, right? Even the Colosseum was in better condition. The Tower of London is in better condition. So he walked by and the fox went onto the Temple Mount. The rabbis he was walking with fell on their knees. They were distraught. They cried. Rabbi Akiva laughed. And he said, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? So he said, because there is a prophecy that says that when God gets angry at the people, a fox will walk on the Temple Mount and no one will shoo it away because no one will be there to shoo it away as the temple lays in ruins. So why are you laughing? He says, I'm laughing because there's another prophecy that says the temple will be rebuilt grander, not only restored to its former glory, but greater and bigger. So if the first prophecy came true, the second prophecy is going to come true. And that is why we're festive, because the temple will be rebuilt. And not only will we rebuilt, it will be built greater and grander. So good is a great connection with God. Bad is an even greater connection with God. The end of bad is even a greater connection with God. The level of God, the level of intensity and the level of dialogue and the level of appreciation and knowledge and insight we'll have into God will be much higher than they had in the first temple, much higher than they had in the second temple. So we look forward to that day. And right now we're suffering, but it's a high level suffering. It's a high level connection with God. But it will pale in comparison to the next step, but it's much greater than the first step. So we celebrate together with sitting on a low chair, together. Because this is the mid time. It's not our happiest time, it's not our greatest time, but it's unrevealed good. You know, there's a theory out there that a serial killer, right, is incredibly intelligent. In order to catch the killer, the detectives or the cop, you know, the Peter Falk from Colombo. One more question. In order for him to catch the killer, he has to be equally as intelligent. Equally as intelligent. He has to think the way a killer thinks. Essentially, he has to tap into the mind of this intelligent person. So he has to think and act and feel like the killer. He has to go into the mode. He has to get down and dirty and negative. Okay, who's he going to kill next? If I was the killer, who would I kill next? Let me get there before him. Let me try and interpret his madness. It's the same idea. It's the same idea. In order to get into God's mindset, we have to be both happy and sad at the same time. It's interesting. In logotherapy, they teach you that fear and love cannot coexist. Kabbalah teaches you it has to coexist in order to be a proper person. So logotherapy says they're antithetical. Judaism says they're complementary. It's a much loftier level. Logotherapy is mortal men. They can't get it. Torah, Kabbalah is God. So we tap into this lofty level, and we do it every day. And we do it today. So today is not just this negative day. Today is incredibly lofty, incredibly connectedness with God. And it's such a spiritual and holy and will lead to such great things. We're not going to say Tachnan. No way, Jose. We're not going to, because we understand that the power of today is awesome. The level of holiness today is awesome. And we're not only going to get bogged down in morose, Shiva-like, and therefore we're going to be happy. So we'll conclude on a happy note. This Jewish guy was dating this American Indian girl, and they announced their engagement. And the father of the Jewish guy was absolutely aghast. Gonna marry gonna marry, a fleeting shadow. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So it comes to the wedding, and the father says, I'm not coming to the wedding. I'm going to sit Shiva on the day of the wedding. So the daughter asked her father, Kokoam, to go meet the father of the groom to try and tell him, please don't ruin our day. So the chief comes with all his feathers and leaves his wigwam, and he comes and goes to Long Island, and he's in Kings Point, and he walks in, and they offer him a cup of coffee, and he sits down, and he goes, please come to the wedding. He says, never, chas v'shalom. He saw he couldn't get anywhere. So he goes, please, at least, in honor of me, give your son an Indian name. So the father says, that I'll do, sitting Shiva. Thus concludes today's class. Be happy, be sad, be joyful. Most important of all is anticipate. Be incredibly, look towards the future, expect good things, and we'll have good things. God bless.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.